Happy to be here and squiggle around in your petri dish talking about this topic. At your disposal to answer any questions.
Joseph, as he looks across all the people on his team who are trying to walk this balance between exceptional creative solutions and on time, on budget and structure, what does he observe about how they do that differently?
Yeah. Again, I came to this work as a museum guy, an exhibit person, and found myself running a company and then running these teams and then training other people to do that. And I don't know that I have any special skills in that. Tried to be a student of this. What I could tell you in my own language is that everyone's bringing their own personality and their own self to the leadership challenge. Some of our folks are very process favorable. They like the rules. Their engineered brains like the fact that there's process and organization, and they get very upset when things are working outside of that. So their whole coaching and work that they're doing to become better at their stuff is to realize when is that instinct important and valuable, and they should lean in and insist that people are following the structure, and when is it really just their own reactions, and it's much more healthy for them and for everybody else to let go. And it's that letting go that is really a secret and hard for everybody to do. Don't have to fight every battle. We have some folks that are really personable and engaging and gregarious. Those folks really like the connection. They like being in the office together. They like that shared sense of collaborative spirit. And the work is hard. So sometimes our team needs the counseling and the pats on the hand and the pats on the back and all of the things the human things that come with encouragement. And those people naturally do that really well in sort of contrast to the others that I'm mentioning. So then you have work groups. So we're never hierarchical with a single point. It's almost always co-leading groups, both projects and also work groups. So you'll have the mom and dad problem where my supervisor is the disciplined one, and I really want to talk to the other one because they make me feel better about my work-life balance and things like that. So right away, you have those distinctions that we're present with all the time. You have young people who I see this sort of leadership potential in, and maybe it's my own naivete, but what I see is really good decision-making or really clear communication or just a really clear ability to be a connector of people's ideas, just inherent in their personalities.
I think people withhold comment because they can't justify their thought or articulate it well. Mm-hmm. But their gut is telling them we're not in the right place here, but they can't really articulate.
It's a great observation. And also there is the sense of who are the opinion leaders. I've just noticed this, and I did not expect it to be an important thing for good leadership success, but understanding who are the opinion leaders in your culture. And it's not even about the work. It's really just about the personalities that have the loud voices and can influence what people are thinking. If you're the passive person waiting to see what they think, and you disagree, it's risky, socially risky to say, I think that we're fooling ourselves here. But we often are. Can I just make a comment about my leadership journey? So I was the CEO for 20 years, and about 15 plus years into that, I'm pretty good at it because we're successful. And then every single one of my clients closes because there's a pandemic. And I thought we were existentially going out. It was the hardest 2 years of my professional life. I never want to experience anything like that ever again. I didn't train for it. I had to carry all of the fears of the entire team for 2 years. And I think that I'm still broken from that experience. I don't feel stronger. I don't feel like I was forged in any kind of way that benefited anything. But what we did come out of that with is way different tools for how this work gets shared. It's like this. We're on a Zoom call. Everything's a PDF. Things just aren't as visible as they once were.
Do you have any techniques around that? What do your leaders do?
Yeah, I mean, it's informal, Tom, but again, try to get that group who's there for collaboration to be very intentional about listening. And that means shutting up. We all assume that the information we have is all the information there is, forgetting that there's all this other perspective that we're just not aware of. So we literally don't know what we don't know. And we try to train that with a little bit of metaphor. So the notion is the three people in the room collectively are seeing the 360 that they wouldn't see if it were just two of them or one of them by themselves. But if you're not listening and you're not exchanging, you never see that additional perspective. I, as a facilitator, I'm very deliberate about asking people to speak who haven't spoken. That does put people on the spot at times, and sometimes they're not comfortable with that.
It reminds me, there's a researcher that I use a lot of with clients. Anita Woolley is from Carnegie Mellon, and she's part of this MIT collective intelligence thing. And so she does these really, I like it because she does these simple studies, and she brings people together to do joint projects, take an IQ test. And then she says, what are the characteristics of the groups that score really well and not score really well? And one of the things is how smart they are individually is not the predictor of how well they'll do as a group. It's the diversity of their perspectives is one. And the other one is their social IQ or empathy. So they're the type of person that will notice someone else's body language or their expression, and they'll say, you look like you have something to say about that, and making sure it gets said.
Tom, you invoked empathy, and I want to just maybe make sure I'm saying out loud how valuable that has been for our practice, or just maybe my own sense of what effectiveness would mean for me in my role. I've been reading George Saunders, who's the American author, fiction writer, talking a lot about kindness and differentiating that from being nice. But what is kindness? And it's just this world just needs a hell of a lot more of that. Maybe it's true. Our employees and our clients, and maybe who the visitors that are coming to our experiences just need more of that. And that goes a long way. And it's very simple. It doesn't have a lot of fancy philosophy behind it, but just being kind, empathetic.
Back in my college, engineering students could never graduate, couldn't get their diploma unless they had achieved a good grade in the small group communication.
Joseph, if you were giving advice to some go-getter who was going to found their own company about how to lead that company or how to lead them through that, what are some of your lessons there that you would want to make sure they understood?
I would certainly share the lesson I learned from you, one of those lessons that you share with me over the years, Tom, and that is know thyself. If you're going to be effective, you really need to know your own, what makes you tick, your strengths, of course, but also just where your own blind spots are. I also think you have to surround yourself with talent. Everybody knows that, but people are the answer to everything, including and especially these external technical design things that are out there in the world. It's all people stuff. As much as I love AI and the promise of AI, I don't worry at all about being replaced. I feel like our work is fundamentally human in its nature. And we have these wonderful tools out there with AI that are going to help us be more productive, but it's the people thing. Be willing to work hard. I don't know, there's no free lunches.
I'm an ethnographer in an ethnography and industry group I'm in. What he's repeated every time was self as data. And initially, a lot of people didn't really grasp what that meant, but what you described is very much that, just listening to yourself and examining yourself and the role you play in the interaction.
At least half the people in the collaboration are introverts and are contemplative, and they're quiet, and the calm for them and the sense of contemplation is where the value is. How do you have a conversation where people can just be? The people here who I sense get the most other people informally connecting with them. In other words, there's magnets for connection, are the one-on-one empathetic hand patters. And maybe that goes without saying. It's not the experts. It's the empaths, the connectors.